call what I do playing a mandolin. I'm a mandolin owner.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, so I'll start us there, and then you can tell me all about it.
Anywhere you want to start.
Well, I'm at the Red House with Jeff Wall, a.k.a. Big Dumb Hick, as he's known. Thanks for coming all the way out of here from the big city of Kernersville.
Thank you. We got a Walmart now.
Man, yeah. Just like King.
Actually, we got two. We got a Walmart Junior and a Walmart. We moved to town. When we moved to town, there was a Kmart, a Food Line, and an Ace Hardware, and that was it. And it had everything you could ever want.
Yeah.
Between those three things.
Yep.
And then they put the Lowe's in, and that killed Ace Hardware. And then they put the Walmart in, and that killed the Kmart. There's a Target now where that Kmart was. But that Kmart was the greatest Kmart because it had just what you needed, nothing extra. Now you go to Lowe's, and they got everything you don't need.
Right.
And they got some 16-year-old kid that can't help you find nothing.
Right.
That doesn't have any idea what, you tell him, I want a flat bastard file. And he's like, we don't talk like that here, sir. And I'm like going, no, you little bastard. I need a flat bastard file. They don't have a clue what the thing is. But now the town's grown up so much. We've been there 23 years now. And it's grown up so much in that time. It's insane. We're like going, we moved here to be in the country. What the hell is all this?
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, you're going to have an interstate running through your yard, soon. It's
Yep.
like you're in the same boat I'm in.
Yep, it's coming, man.
Yeah.
Somebody told me your moniker is misleading. Somebody told me that you're actually one of the smartest people.
I'm not that big.
Yeah.
I'm losing weight. I'm a medium-sized dumb hick now.
I heard that you're kind of a smart guy.
How do you judge that?
I don't know.
So that's the thing. I'm working for a place. I got a day job that I hate, and one of the things I hate the most about it is they're good to me. They pay me on time. Their benefits have just gotten better in the last year or two, and I'm like, why y'all treat me like this? Y'all making it hard for me to. They gave me an extra week of vacation. I'm like, no, now I can't quit. What am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
But I hate the job because most of the time I'm bored to death. And I'd like to play music full time, but my wife, she demands that we live indoors with electricity. I'm like, what's wrong with living in a van, baby? I did it before I met you, No, I have to be comfortable.
Yep. I've heard that. About, adults too. I've heard it about them.
I don't know, I'm not dumb. When I was in my 20s, I was a whole lot smarter than I am now. Because I do every damn thing.
20-year-olds notoriously,
You couldn't tell me shit. And, I'm 61 now, and I'm realizing I'm one of the dumbest motherfuckers walking on the face of the planet. I really am. I don't know anything, and I'm like, I used to think I was smart. And so I don't know how to judge that. I know a lot of people who are much smarter than I am. And I know some really stupid people, and it's like, I wish I was one of the stupid people because they're always happy.
Yeah.
The stupid people are happy. They don't have to think. They're not questioning every step of that they do. Why did I do this? Is this the right thing for me to do? Is this a career killer? Is this going to enhance what's going on here?
Exactly.
And and so my head's always running.
Well, speaking of happiness and head always running. Music is probably how you and I know each other.
Right. It's been long. I ain't seen you in a long time. I
Yeah.
mean, you got some gray now. I'm like, holy shit, he got old. But
I know.
I don't think that I got old.
You're getting younger.
Shut
I
up.
think. I saw you at that show that we were playing around a campfire. You had opened, I think, for a guy from like Louisiana, and it was like in an Ardmore.
Oh, were you? I didn't know you were at that.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was Grayson Caps, because the time I remember seeing you before that was at a coffee shop open mic in King.
Oh, wow.
And that place has been, they have a new owner every 2 years.
Yeah, that's forever ago.
Yeah, that's how long ago. I was surfing through the internet and saw a nice write-up on you from somebody. So I mean, it looked professional. I'm like, damn, Tyler's big time. How the hell did he do that? What I got to do to?
I'm wondering the same thing. I don't know what to do either. But how'd you end up starting in music?
My parents went to Mexico and came back with a cheap guitar. I mean, it wouldn't have made good firewood. I mean, it's a Stella is like that's like a Martin compared to what I ended up with. You know, the action was huge, and I think I was 10 or 11. I took, maybe half a dozen lessons. I learned how to play "Love Me Tender," and that was it. That's the only song I ever learned. I learned a handful of chords, and that was it. And I joined the Navy at 18, and I didn't stick with it. Something else got in the way. Matchbox cars or cartoons or, a dog or I don't know what it was. Something else took my attention, and my attention I've never been really good at locking, Like I said, I have really bad ADHD. That wasn't diagnosed until I was in my mid-50s. But I'd learned a few chords. 18, I went in the Navy because there wasn't nothing for me left to do. I'd gone to college for one semester and it bored me. And so I tested out early and left. And the joke I tell people is I had to leave town to find somebody to date that I wasn't kin to. And that's not that far removed from the truth. But I ended up going to the Navy, and I like the traveling. I tell people it's the greatest job I ever hated. And I don't know a better way to describe it than that. There's a lot of things about it I liked. I liked the people. There's a lot of people that I served with that I love. I hated the politics, and I hated the arbitrary micromanagement. I could give you a long list of things I hated. But one of the things I really like the most about it is that check I get every month.
Yeah.
I'm really happy about that check I get every month. But I was in the Navy. We were sitting off the coast of Beirut in 82 or 83, whenever right before they blew up the Marine Corps barracks. And there was nothing to do. I'd read every book there was to read on the ship that I could get my hands on, even the ones that didn't have pictures in them. And some of the guys on the ship had brought guitars with them. And I went, and I hated those guys, and they hated me. We're friendly now, but back then, I was a smart-ass 20-year-old kid. And I'd sneak one of the guitars, and I'd see if I could remember some chords. And I started, and I saw one of them had a Bob Dylan book of all Bob Dylan songs and chords. And I never knew such a thing existed. And so I'm like, well, that's cool. And so when we got back, I taught myself to play sitting out there. So when we got back, I bought a guitar. It was an old cheap Framus archtop. A horrible guitar. Looked pretty. But it's all it did was look pretty. I've dated some women like that too. It looked pretty and it was useless for anything else. But and I started playing that, and I ended up with a Yamaha FG160 that some woman I thought I was in love with has now. I have several guitars that disappeared like that. But I started once I picked one up in 82, 83. I haven't put one down since. And the thing is it's good therapy for me. I taught myself how to play sitting around campfires, playing bluegrass festivals.
Yeah.
And I tell people I'm a shitty bluegrass player is what it is, because I'm sloppy. My timing will sometimes wobble a little bit. But when I'm solo, who cares? You know, if I throw an extra measure, extra beat in there, nobody cares. Nobody knows except me or maybe some other musician, and they'll just like, I see what you did, And music is not supposed to be a competitive sport, but it is. I mean,
absolutely.
It absolutely is. And the thing is, I'm not competing against you. I'm competing against me. But and when you make a mistake, I'm just gonna smile at you. Just let you know that I noticed it. You noticed it. We both noticed it. I've done it too. It's just a camaraderie thing. It's like get you somebody, and nobody cares except whoever wasn't made a mistake. But so this is a long rambling answer.
Oh no, it's fine.
So, and I would sit around and I'd play cover tunes. I had when I moved to town, when I got out of the Navy, I started a little duo with a guy named Kevin Springer, who worked at the Music Barn in Greensboro. And I played out as the Hillbilly Love Gods. And then Kevin died, which is kind of an extreme way to quit a band, but I guess, it worked. And I kind of lost my desire to play out. It just wasn't as fun anymore.
Yeah.
It was kind of and it just, I'd do something once or twice a year or something. Somebody comes to town, I'd sit in or open for somebody. And then 2015 or 2016, my birthday, Terry Bowman in Mount Airy. I don't know if you know Terry or not.
That name rings a
Biggie
bell.
G runs on Facebook. But Terry's a dear friend. He took me out for my birthday. And we ended up over at Cranky's, I think it was, the old Cranky's, for one of Wish's shuffles.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Wisniewski. I love the guy. He's crazy as hell.
Yeah.
I love him, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. But he had this thing called the shuffle. I don't know if you ever talked about that here or not.
I did that a lot, and yeah, it's been brought up once or twice.
Yeah, and I got tricked into entering, and I'm like, I'm not a songwriter. I've written one parody. That was the only song I'd ever written, and it was a song called Viagra Prescription, which is a parody of Hank Jr.'s family tradition. It was like, they all want to know, Jeff, why do you strut, eat them little blue pills? Now, how'd you get a heart on it? It looks like stainless steel. When I'm in the back seat, my cousin's moaning from the friction. She thanks God I went and got this Viagra prescription. It was stupid. I did that, and then I played Moonshiner, which is an old folk song that's I learned off a Peter Rowan album, and Uncle Tupelo did. A lot of people done that song. So that was a public domain song I did, and then I did Grayson's Big Old Woman for my third song. And I could have won it. And I told him, I said, no, I only wrote one of these. And one of these is a cover, which I shouldn't really be doing. Vote for the other guy.
Oh.
And so the other guy, I don't even remember who the other guy was, but he won it, because I threw it.
Yeah, if you made it to the third round, then you were the finalist.
I beat him. I hate to say I don't mean to be a dick, but I beat him. I killed him that night. And I threw it, and it was one of the few nights that there was a good crowd where, there was a couple $300 in the kitty. And so the other guy got it. But they borrowed a guitar for me. They entered me, but without my knowledge, I just ended up in it.
Damn.
But we did that, and it lit the fire. And the thing is in order to continue participating in that, I had to start writing songs.
Yeah.
So in my mid-50s, I became a songwriter. And a lot of times I'd get a song written the day of the shuffle. I'd have an hour, or I'd be finishing up the song at the shuffle, waiting for my turn.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I don't think in rhyme and meter normally. I think in obscenities and profanities.
Right.
And but I started doing that, and I'd win a few. I'd usually hit the third round, whether or not, it was seldom I didn't hit the third round. And so I started thinking maybe something's going on here that, and I just kept doing it. I kept writing songs, and once I had enough to start playing out, I started playing out.
Yeah. There's something super beneficial, it seems, about having an environment like that. It reminds me of that old open mic up in King that I used to run. Before I ran it, I would go to it every week, and there was just something about knowing that the pressure was on and you wanted to do something different and you wanted have a good night. That kept me writing a lot in those days and kept the knife sharp.
I wish I'm not a good songwriter, or maybe I am. I don't know. I don't do it the way most people I talk to do it. I get brief burst of inspiration. You know, and a song will come to me, and or either the whole song comes to me or a line comes to me, and I'll chew on it and worry on it like a dog on a bone until I get something out of it. Sometimes it's something good, sometimes it's shit, and it's, and who knows. But I know people that write every day, you know, they have a set thing. Doug Davis has this Monday morning 3 a.m. music club thing where you have to have a new song done every Monday morning by 3 a.m. and turned in. You got to have it posted up on SoundCloud. And I entered that one cycle, and barely did. I got a few good songs out of it. I got a lot of shit out of it too.
Yeah.
But I don't write good to a deadline. I can do it, you know. It doesn't mean anything good's coming out of it. It's like,
Yeah.
And I don't know, you know, my songs are not like anybody else's that I've, you know, the people I listen to, other songwriters. I'm like, oh man, I wish I'd written that. Does that mean I'm better than they are because I'm unique? Does that mean that I suck and I can't, you know, I can't do this right? I don't know. It's a good question.
Of course, I don't think so. I mean, or I do think that a more
You
unique.
do think I suck? I understand. You know.
A more unique voice, I think, is
Yeah, that's a good way to
value.
put it. Yeah, he's unique. He's different. He's special.
What was it
He's
like
special.
when you talked about getting diagnosed with what was it, ADHD?
Yeah, ADHD. I've had depression all my life, but I always stiff-armed it. You know, if you had some kind of mental health issue, man, I'd do everything I could do to encourage you to go get some help.
Yeah.
I would take you to go get some help. But if I did it, I'm wussing out. You know, that's a cop-out for me to say, mental health, you just need to pull yourself up by your pants, you know, by your bootstraps, get your shit together. That's your problem. You just need, you know, and so I always thought that I was wimping out. And my father passed away, and then a good friend of mine passed away about a year later. And I didn't realize that I ended up re-grieving my father's death. I got laid off from a job. I got fired. That's what happened. Depression got so bad I couldn't get off the couch. I mean, I don't know if you ever suffered that kind of depression. It's painful. I mean, it hurts. I didn't want to live. I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live. I wasn't suicidal. But I was angry and mean. And anybody that knows me, you know, I'm usually a happy, cheerful, you know, happy-go-lucky guy, but I was fucking mean. And I'm a little too big to be mean. You know, it's not. But I got this buddy who's a social worker. His name's Lucas. All this stuff's in that book, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But Lucas is a social worker, and he got to work. He was working at the VA, and he comes up to me. He's from the mean streets of Vermont or New Hampshire or Rhode Island, somewhere up there. I'm not sure. And he's a Jew, got a Jew fro, who's converted to Islam. And he's a recovering addict, and I love the guy to death. We used to call him Lucas the Pimp, because he had an Achilles tendon problem, so he had to walk with a cane. And he'd buy these old Delta 88s and, you know, old Cadillac, big boat cars. They were cheap, you know, you get them for nothing, and he'd drive them till the wheels fell off of them. And so he talks with this New Orleans ghetto patois in his accent, even though he's way up north, and the way he dressed, he became Lucas the Pimp. That's just. Then he converted to Islam, and he was speaking at a meeting one night, and I introduced him. I said, my friend Lucas, who recently converted to terrorism, and so now he's Lucas a terrorist. It's such a wrong thing for me to do. I know I've got a lot of friends who are Muslim, and I really respect that faith, but there's nothing that's going to stop me from fucking with a friend.
Yeah.
And that's not meant as a slam against the Islamic faith. That's a slam against Lucas.
Yeah.
That's just me busting Lucas's ass. You know, please don't take offense to this if you're a Muslim. I don't mean any ill blood. Anyway, Lucas came up to me and he said, brother man, you know I work at the VA. He said, I'm working with this cat. He's kind of new there, and his job is to help brothers like you that just need a little nudge. They're not crazy. They don't need a lot of help, but they just need a little nudge to get them over the top. He said, and he needs to. He said, you've got a lot of experience. And he needs to talk to cats like you that have this experience. So it would help him to relate to other people he meets, And the way he framed it, I'd be helping this guy if I talked to him. Lucas could sell the devil a pitchfork, man. I mean, he could talk the devil out of his pitchfork. He's just that kind of guy. And I love him. And so he talked me into going to see somebody. So I called mental health at the VA. And I said, I need to talk to somebody. And they said, all right, come on in. And I started, I sat down. She said, tell me about your family. And I started laughing. I'm like, well, really? She said, yeah. I said, well, my parents got divorced after, I said, my mom and biological dad knew each other 11 days and they got married. I said, they got divorced when I was little. My mom married my stepdad who adopted me. They got divorced after 36 years. Let's see. My great-grandfather was the town drunk. My grandfather shot my grandmother, and every time I'd tell her something, she'd look at me, she'd say, no shit. And I'm like, no shit. And she'd just sit there with her jaw down. No shit. And then she stopped me in the middle. She says, anybody ever told you you have ADHD? I said, yeah, but I figured that's fucking with me. She says, they're not fucking with you about this. You have this. And so she wanted to put me on amphetamines, and I'm like, I can't take it. I'm in recovery, and I was a speed freak in the 70s. And she said, in the late 70s, and she said, well, how did you take speed? I said, about a fistful, stay awake 3 or 4 days, and you finally crash. And I'm glad I never found meth. Meth wasn't a big thing back then. But speckled birds and Christmas trees and fastings and things like this. And she said, no, we're not going to give you that kind of, we're going to give you a low dose. I said, am I going to feel spiders crawling on top of my head? She said, no. And I'm thinking, what's the fucking use of this? Because that's what I used to. That's the way I would eat. I'd eat enough speed. You could feel bugs crawling on top of your head. That's when you knew it was good. And so she put me on this for ADHD, and it helps a little bit. I've had some other medical issues, so they won't let me take as much of that as I would like to. I would like to double up on the dose and take it twice a day, but they don't want me to do that because I've had some heart issues, and I've had a stroke, and I've had,
I see.
But that was in my brain. I don't use that. So I don't know why.
Yeah, what's the big deal? Huh. That's a lot.
I don't know. Ask me one question, and I'll just wander. I'll just wander off.
Man, I mean that's what you're here for me to kind of hear your story and learn about you.
It's to be fun. Is this an hour? How long is this podcast?
It varies from an hour 15 to some people I've talked to for a very long time.
I was about to say you might be doing some editing. This might end up being 4 or 5 different podcasts.
Well, I mean, do you know Jonathan Green, great drummer? We've talked about the same subject because he was recently diagnosed with the same thing, and he's very glad to know this. But he and I would talk for like 3 hours sometimes. So it's.
Well, yeah, I had problems when I was in the Navy. I'd get in trouble for forgetting to do things, like come to work.
Yeah.
I'd have duty that day, and I'd forget I had it, and so I wouldn't show up for the due section muster. I'd get a phone call about 10 o'clock. Where are you? You're supposed to be on duty. I'm like, no shit, that's today. Or I'd be late because I have real problems with time. Time management is not one of my things. Estimating how long something's going to take is, I leave too late. And anyway, I have real issues with time. And I get locked into something, and when I get locked into it, I get tunnel vision. And I'll ignore everything. I was sitting up at the house a couple nights ago, and I'm doing a fundraiser. I'm participating. I'm doing one song, and the topic is the British invasion. I decided, all right, I'm going to do Sympathy for the Devil. And I do it sometimes at gigs. And I said, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do it on mandolin. And so I hadn't played mandolin much lately, and so I picked up my mandolin. I've been playing my mandolin a lot, just around the house, getting ready for this thing next month. So I got Spotify on, I got the headphones on, and I'm playing along. And I look at my watch, and it's 1:30. I get up at 4:30 to go to work. So I'm like going, this is not good. And so I went and crawled in bed, and I'm laying there staring at the ceiling until 2. Then I wake up at 4, and I'm wide awake. And it's like, well, this kind of sucks, let's get up, go to work. It's like, but that happens sometimes. I get locked in on something, and I lose all track of time. I lose all track of anything around me. I'll see movement or something will grab my attention while I'm trying to talk to you, and I'll just kind of wander off.
Yeah.
I got a friend who I'm active. I've been active in a 12-step recovery program for a long time, and I sponsor a guy, and he will call me. He says, "I need to talk to you. Have you taken your crazy meds yet?" I'm like, "Oh no, not yet. I just woke up." He said, "Take your meds. I'll call back in a half hour." Because he says, "I can't have a conversation with you when you're unmedicated." And I don't notice the difference. And when I take the Adderall, I can take the Adderall, and I can lay down on your couch and take a nap.
Yeah.
It doesn't do shit to me that I can tell. But my wife and other people tell me they can tell the difference when I'm taking my meds and when I'm not. Because I can be more focused, and you can have a conversation with me.
Let me ask you something. If I, like I say, I mean,
Dude, there's nothing that I'm...
Okay. Well, I mean, you mentioned some stuff, and I'm just fascinated. Like, you do come across as a very sort of inviting, positive person, and I'm interested because you're telling me these things about sort of your experiences with whatever, with drugs and with alcohol
Chemicals,
and different things. Chemicals, that's the word I'm looking for. And I guess I'm wondering, like, I don't know, like, what you said, how long have you been in the recovery thing?
38 years I've been clean so far.
38 years. So I guess, I mean...
But I can still fuck it up today. I mean, I still got time.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. I mean, I guess, like, I don't know. What am I trying to ask you? What is your retrospective on that? Like, was that a negative thing for you to experience?
Let's see.
Fuck
if I know. My grandfather's an alcoholic. His father was an alcoholic. Let's see. I got an aunt who's an alcoholic. I got Terry. I got a couple of cousins that are addicts. My mom and dad got divorced when I was little. My mom remarried. My stepfather's an alcoholic. My brother's pretended to be in recovery a few times. I don't know if he is or not. I don't care. My sister's in recovery. If you look at our family history, we should not even be allowed to drive past a liquor store. I told you my great-grandfather was the town drunk. He played fiddle and banjo, and we're still a little ashamed about the banjo part. We're okay with the town drunk thing's not bad. He rose to the pinnacle of his chosen profession. Anybody can be a drunk, but to be the town drunk, you've achieved something. You found your calling. But I grew up going to AA meetings from the time I was a little kid. So I thought I knew everything there was to know about all this shit. I started drinking when I was 15 and smoking weed and hash and eating speed. Those were my main things. I'd take whatever you had, but the thing was I was so uncomfortable in my own skin. A lot of this was ADHD related too. I always knew something was wrong with me. I don't fit in anywhere. I don't feel like I belong anywhere. I've always felt like a stranger in a strange land, to quote both Leon Russell and Robert Hyland. And alcohol, I was always trying to feel normal, and alcohol didn't make me feel normal. I think I had my first drink when I was 15 or so, but I understand then why. The first time I had liquor, I understood why my father drank. Because it didn't make me feel like I fit in, but it rounded off all the edges. It felt like I could kind of be on the periphery and be in. And I ended up going to Navy at 18, and I'd been out of high school for a year, and the rule in my house was you had a year. You need to be in college, or you need to have a job, gainfully employed, your own place.
Yeah.
You had a year, and see ya. And I was the oldest, so that I was the one that I was the reason we had this. I was working fast food jobs, and I'd get drunk every night, and so forth and so on. But I think I was 23 or so, and it's a whole long story. But I kind of realized I was living with a girl who was married to somebody else, and I come home one day and all my shit's on the porch, and she's my best friend who was sleeping on the couch was no longer sleeping on the couch. And how could she do me that way? And her husband, it's like. And so I went to go to Chaplain and told him I had some issues. There's a song about that too. I love every bone in her body except for his.
That was the one you played at the backyard.
Yeah, and it's all these things end up in a song somehow or another. But the thing is I went to Chaplain and I told him, I got these feelings and I don't know what to do with them. And my fear,
you tickled me.
My fear is I'm going to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to deal with these feelings. And he sent me on this religious retreat, this credo retreat. And while I was there, they had a 12-step meeting for adult children of alcoholics. And I sat on that meeting. I was hanging out with those guys because the AA people, because I knew that people, I could speak that language, even though I didn't really fit in. I could pretend like I did. And I had the shakes real bad that weekend because, I'd gotten hammered. I drank a fifth the day before I left for that retreat, and I couldn't get a cigarette and a lighter to meet up the same universe, the same.
XY axis.
Yeah, that just wouldn't happen. So I had to get people to light cigarettes for me. So I went to this H2A meeting. And, they read all these traits of an adult child of an alcoholic. And I got mad, wanting to know who this bitch was that wrote this book about me and didn't ask me for permission before she put my whole life story in a book and just sold it to everybody, And so I started checking, doing some work on that and checking out Al-Anon and some other things. And after about 3 weeks, I've been sober for about 3 weeks, and I realized, hell, I ain't got a problem. This ain't me. It's my parents. I can go have beer. And that when I had a beer and I drank 3 swallows and I could hear this guy's voice in my ear telling me, if you keep trying to drink away your problems, you're just going to die drunk, with the same problems. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do, big boy? And I noticed I'd reached a point before I'd realized where I couldn't find anything to drink or eat that would make my feelings go away.
Yeah.
And I'd tried. And so I kind of realized that I was going down the same path as some of my family members had, and maybe this is a problem. Maybe I need to look at this. And so that's what I did, And for a long time, I guess you could call me a high-bottom drunk or something, or I don't know. I tell people, I said, I never had to blow anybody for heroin. I didn't do heroin. That ain't why I did it. Not that I've ever really blown anybody, but I give that insinuation as a joke from stage.
Yeah.
But, I'll do anything for a laugh, it's kind of sad. But where was I at? But,
well, you said
I couldn't, I knew I was crazy. Am I crazy because of all these chemicals and shit I'm doing? Or am I doing all these chemicals shit because I'm crazy?
Yeah.
Somebody told me, they said, you can't do shit about being crazy, but you do shit about them chemicals. If you quit taking all that shit and drinking, see what happens to the crazy. Mm-hmm. Well, the crazy was still there, but I was able to deal with it a little bit better.
Yeah.
And the worst part for me about getting clean, I went to AA meetings for a little while, and the problem I had with AA was that there was a lot of little old ladies there. And I have a tendency to rage, and I was angry at the world, and I'm screaming. Bunch of little old ladies sitting at the other end of the table out of arm's reach. And they tell me, just keep coming back, honey. At least you didn't drink. I'm thinking, I'm talking about killing seven or eight people, and y'all ain't, at least you didn't drink. They did everything they could to be nice to me. And then one night I ended up running into a couple of guys told me about this NA meeting. Somebody tried to get me into NA in 1977. Girl I used to get high with, and I don't have a problem. She's like, you're right, but I went to this first NA meeting, and it was filled with bikers and chicks with tattoos, strippers, and I'm like, these are my people, It's just, I can get laid here, these are my people, and they were talking a language which I understood. They talked about feeling like a little kid in a world full of grown-ups, and not feeling like they belonged, feeling like everybody else had the answers they'd been searching for their whole life, and they were talking about feelings, and nobody really talked much about what they used or how much they used. None of that shit mattered, As far as they were concerned, a drug's a drug's a drug. It doesn't matter. And addiction's all about obsession and compulsion. Once you get that first one, you got to have more. And so I could identify on that level, on the obsession and compulsion and the addiction things. Looking at the number of guitars you get around here, you might have some problems too. But and I understand. Somebody asked me, how many guitars do you have? I'm like, that's an awful personal question.
I'd rather tell you how much I weigh.
How many pairs of underwear do you have? How many vibrators does your wife own? It's like it's the same thing. But and so I started going to NA because I felt like I belonged, and I felt like I fit in, and I've been doing it for 38 years. And the thing is it's. Don't get impressed with how long I've been clean, because I'm still fucked up in the head and I still do stupid shit. I just don't have anything to blame it on. Well, that's the worst part about getting clean is I can't say, well, I was fucked up. I like to say, I'm fucked up. It's different. It's not that I was fucked up; it's that I am fucked up. And I'm sorry. And you gotta make amends and make shit right when it happens, which is kind of.
I mean, I think it's cool that you're open about that. I appreciate you telling me about it. I mean, as I was thinking about it, you're wiser, more experienced than me, so I don't.
No, I'm just older.
Well, older still, because you talk about, you've lost people this way, and I was just thinking, like, I know a lot of people that are of an older demographic than me that are stone sober, and I don't know a lot of people, that lived a long life that are like severe alcoholics or anything like that. And I guess that speaks to something,
Well, I've known some old drunks, a bunch of them in my family, my grandfather. I don't proselytize. I'm not going to run around and say, you got a problem, you need some help. I will tell you what I did. And if you ask me for help, I'll do whatever I can to help you. Mm-hmm. That's it. I'm not here to tell anybody how to live their life or what they should do or shouldn't do. Yeah. Because I don't know. I don't know what you should do and what you shouldn't do. I don't live inside your head. I don't want to live inside your head. Just like, and I promise you, you do not want to live inside my head. It's a scary ride. It's. Socrates or Plato or one of those old Greek guys said that unexamined life is not worth living. Mm-hmm. And I'm really grateful to 12-Step Fellowship because it's caused me to look at a lot of things in my life. Yeah. And I'm constantly looking and evaluating on, was I the asshole here? Have I done the right thing? Do I need to make an apology for this? What have I done? What's my part in this? I don't know. It's early on. I was told that the way to make this work is to make this a part of your life. It's not something you do; it's something you are. Everybody knows I don't use. Everybody knows I don't drink. I don't smoke weed. But I don't give a shit what you do. If it bothers me, I'll get up and walk away. It's my responsibility. It's not your responsibility to You don't have to kiss my ass because I'm not doing it. You do what you got to do. I'm gonna go over and smoke a cigar, and if it annoys you, you need to step away. Same thing. It's like I can be respectful, and I'll let other people make their choices. I don't know what there's how many people do you know that have OD'd and died?
I know of a few A lot of them were in their early 20s.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that fucking, especially the community I run around in, and the musicians. I mean, we both know there's a bunch of famous musicians that have died.
Yeah.
Due to substance abuse and mental health issues, and where they took themselves out, or the chemicals took them out, or whatever. To me, it's the same.
Yeah.
And I have people that make a big deal out of how long I've been clean. I'm like, I hadn't eaten okra in longer than that. You know, nobody comes up and says, "Good job not eating okra." You know, it's like,
yeah.
you know, it's just something I do to take care of myself. I mean, you probably have some self-care regimens you do. You know?
Well, I mean, it's just interesting because a lot of it seems that a lot of younger people coming up are saying fuck alcohol, even if they're not like myself. Like, it was a part of a habit for me, a ritual, but I gave it up like 6 months ago, and
good for you.
it's been better for me. It's been better for me to just not have it, and I know a couple of local artists who did the same thing.
I know a lot of people tell me they got off liquor with weed, and you know, they're like, "You should try weed. Weed will help you with this and with that." And I'm like, dude, when I smoked weed was $20 or $25 a lid. A 4-finger lid, which was about an ounce to an ounce and a quarter of weed. You know, $25 for an ounce. And it was that good Mexican redbud, which was the best weed you could get at the time in the Southeast. You would refer to it now as ditch weed. But it was, but when I smoked weed, I smoked all the fucking weed. You know, I didn't just smoke a bowl and I was mellow and happy, you know. Let's keep fucking smoking. Let's see, you know. And
I wonder if that's like a generational thing. Like,
well, for me, it's like if I open a bag of potato chips, I'm gonna eat every fucking potato chip in the bag.
Yeah.
Within a day or 2 days. If I buy a dozen chocolate chip cookies at Lowe's, I'm gonna eat them all up in a day. It's just, once I get that first one, I just keep rolling. And I'm scared the same thing would happen with weed. And people, you know, you hear it, weed's a gateway drug, and everybody say, no, it's not. I'm like, well, I'll tell you this. Weed buzz is great, but a weed alcohol buzz beats a weed buzz, right? And an alcohol Vicodin buzz beats a weed alcohol buzz. And if we're going there, let's just go ahead and get some speedballs and just fucking let's
how your
fucking go.
mind
Yeah,
thinks
I'm like,
about
it's like, let's not half-ass this. Let's go. If we're going, let's fucking go.
yeah.
You know, I had a boss that told me, he said, I got angry with somebody and I raised my voice and I got in their face and it was somebody had stepped over a boundary, you know, and they'd gotten into my business about some stuff that they shouldn't have, and so I spoke up and I spoke up loudly and angrily, and my boss they wrote me up for it. My boss said, I think you reacted a little bit. I don't think that the situation called for quite that reaction. I said, look, here's the way I am. I'm chill and mellow. When you cross that line and react, my thing is, if we're going, let's go. You know, I'm going thermonuclear. I'm not starting off with a 22. I'm going fucking I'm going all the way. I'm going now. Let's get it over with and done.
Yeah.
And he said, you allowed him to control? I said, no, I drew a line in the fucking sand. Me and the guy get along great now. Now he's my supervisor. But we get along great. We have respect for each other. It was just that early feeling each other out, when, you know, thing like that.
Yep.
And I apologize to him, you know, for yelling at him. And but I didn't put my hands on him, so yes.
Yep.
I'm happy about that. You know, I have a tendency to rage sometimes. And when I was in my 20s, it was like I was outside my body watching, you know, and I'd watch myself doing shit. I'm like, oh, don't do that, and too late, you know. So I'm real proud I haven't put my hands on anybody in a long, you know, 20, 30 years.
So I'll mention this.
I'm sorry. I
No,
don't mean to get
you're
off
good.
track.
We are, I think what we've talked about so far is a good example of what drew us together today. You got a lot of stories to tell, and that is culminated at now in a creative project that I saw you post about, and I thought, well, now is a really good time to get Jeff over to talk about this.
Well, the thing is this. I come from a long line of storytellers. Some of them are true, some of them are not, But it's if I'm telling a story, I'm controlling the narrative. It's like I don't know how to deal. If we had a room full, if you had a party going on, it was a room full of people, and there were no musical instruments in the room, I don't know what I'd do.
Yeah.
I mean, if I have a guitar in my hand, I'm all right. Because I can noodle while I talk. One brain is doing this, and the other brain is functioning over here. I have a social anxiety issue. I used to think I was very extroverted. I realize now I'm not. But you put me on stage in front of 10,000 people, I'm good. Because I own that. I own the whole interaction. It's all about, and the thing is, I was thinking, I'll taught myself to play music, listen to John Prine records. And John Prine always had a story to go with the song. Mm-hmm. And I love John Prine, and I should have been listening to Stevie Goodman records, and I'd be a much better guitar player. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, go look up Steve Goodman. It was John Prine's best friend, and he was a hell of a guitar player. He's the guy that wrote City of New Orleans. But one of the things, Todd Snyder and all these other people, the things that people like is the story, and I like doing that. And so when I play out, every song is a story, and when you tell the audience about this song, what this song's about, or what caused you to write this song or whatever, it allows the audience to connect more with that song, and it allows them to connect more with you. And that's what we're all looking for as human beings. We just want a connection with each other, and music's a great thing for that. And so I've got all these stories for these songs, or these stories about, like, my grandfather shooting my grandmother. I've got an aunt that's been married 5 or 6 times. My great-grandfather being town drunk. I had an uncle who was married to 2 women at the same time. I had 2 different families on opposite ends of town. And I put all that into a story, into a song. So what I've done is turn a lot of these stories into songs. But every story has a song, and every song has a story. And I was reading something about, and somebody was selling something on eBay. It was a Flatt and Scruggs songbook that they would sell at shows. And what it was, it had the lyrics to whatever the current album was, and it had photos of the band and a biography of each of the band members. And this was something they would sell at the record table. Now, Louise Scruggs was Earl Scruggs' wife. Louise Scruggs was a genius. She was the very first female artist manager. She got, when bluegrass was kind of getting its ass kicked by rock and roll, and the folk boom came along, Louise recognized this, and she started booking Flatt Scruggs at college campuses. And so they started playing college campuses, and the kids went nuts because they did take to some authenticity, whatever the hell that is, and they went nuts. She booked them on television. She did all this stuff. So when I saw that book, I'm thinking, I bet Louise had something to do with this, and if it's good enough for Louise, I'm doing it, And so I already had the songs. We're talking about that book. I already had the songs written. I already had the lyrics,
Yeah.
I've written maybe 90 songs, and 70 of them I'm willing to let you read the lyrics to. 20 of them I'm not, 20 of them suck so bad I don't want anybody, they'll never need to see the light of day anymore. But I already had the songs. And I used to be a freelance writer. I used to write for magazines. You're young, you may not know this. Magazines are these things, it's kind of like the internet on paper. It's what people used to take to the shitter back before they invented cell phones.
Right, okay. I can picture it.
Yeah. It's kind of, but so I used to write for No Depression and Paste and a magazine called Harp, Country Weekly, Country Music Magazine, and a bunch of papers, newspapers, weekly newspapers. Like, yes, I didn't write for Yes Weekly, but that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so I had experience writing. I had an online music magazine before such a thing ever existed, called Twangzine. I had that for a long time. And so I had experience writing, and I liked to write, and I had the songs, and I had the stories in my head that I normally tell. So I just started writing them down. And I thought, and my whole purpose of doing this is something else to sell from the record table.
Yeah.
My merch game is strong. I make more money off merch than I do off tips, off bar gigs. It's like, I sell T-shirts, I sell bumper stickers. I got the book now. What else do I sell? I got posters. Yeah, my merch game is strong because people want something they can take home to remember you and remember that event by. People want to give you money if they enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
They want to support you, and you got to give them a means to be able to do it. And so the thing is, and I don't like just taking somebody's money. I feel guilty about doing that. I want to give you something of fair value. Mm-hmm. And right now, all of my music's for free on my Bandcamp site, and the book's for free. Pay what you want to pay. I make more money doing that than if I put a price on it.
Yeah.
I end up with more money in my pocket by letting people pay what they want to pay. And I've been telling people, read the book, and if you think it's worthwhile, then come back and throw some money.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then don't. I'm asking people to review the book. If you like it, great. If you don't, tell me what you didn't like. There's 70 songs in there. Put together a playlist for me. Tell me what you want. I was recording shows, and I quit doing that. I need to do that again. I need a better handheld recorder. And I've got a bunch of demos and stuff. I have to record a song after I write it, either do a video on a phone or play it into my phone or something, or I'll forget the damn thing.
Yeah.
And I have to write down the lyrics. And so I had all these demos. I had a few videos. I had a bunch of live performances. And I've put out 4 CDs so far. And a lot of times the demo is not the same as the CD, not the same as the way the song finished out. I'll do it in a different key. I'll do it in a different tempo. Sometimes I'll do a completely different arrangement. I found out that songs are not fixed. Songs are always mutating, growing. Songs are people. Songs are people too. However you want to do it. But songs are always evolving. That's the word I'm looking for. These versions I put out, I ended up with 85 tracks. I remixed some other stuff, and my mixing skills and remixing skills suck. I have Audacity, and I found out that some of the stuff I recorded I hated because the timing was so bad. Nobody could probably hear it except me. But if I sped it up 5% or 10%, those timing issues went away, and I was much happier with it. And I'm like, well, hell yeah, let's. And so I'd play with things like, so I've done some remixes like that. But I ended up with 85 tracks for 70 songs, and I threw them up on Bandcamp. And so that people could listen to the song, then they could read the story, they could read the lyrics, and they could hear the song. And the reason for doing this, besides making money, is hoping it will have more people. It will cause more people to connect with my music. Mm-hmm. That's the deal. The thing is, I'm trying to get more gigs, and I hate booking gigs, but I want to play, and that's the ultimate thing for me is playing. Because playing, I get to make the connection with people. I get to look people in their eyes, and I get to see if what it is I'm singing about is connecting with them.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of my songs are humorous or comedic in nature, and the other ones make you want to throw yourself off a cliff. I tell people either it's a 3-chord dick joke or it's a suicide note with a tempo. It's about all I write. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
And so I just lost where I was going, but I love playing live because I want people to connect. I want to see the reaction on people's faces. I want to make people enjoy themselves. I want to make them tap their foot. I want to make them laugh. I want to make them cry sometimes.
Yep.
And I want people to feel like that the hour, or 2 hours, or 3 hours they spent with me was was worthy of that time that they spent. You know, they're giving me their time. I'm trying to give them something in return for that. And I want them to feel like it was a fair transaction.
Do you have an idea of what you think is the most maybe impactful, most important, most the one story that you think captures the spirit of this project the most?
There's a lot of stories in there. No, there's not one I can name. You know, my strongest song is "Love Everybody, Don't Be a Dick."
Mm.
That's the one that people always request.
Yeah.
And so there's a long write-up in there about Jesus and about how that song came to be in my spiritual beliefs. There's a long write-up about a song I wrote called "Drinking with the Devil" that I've never played out because it's a long song. You know, I refer to it as my Beowulf. It's not quite that long, but it enabled me to talk about Satan. And the thing is, and what I was talking about there, my spiritual beliefs are this: I'm agnostic or atheist, depending upon the minute. I believe that God is love, and love is God. I don't believe in the God that I was brought up with, that there's some dude up in heaven with a notepad keeping track of every time I have a nasty thought. You know, I think that as long as I think that God is love and love is God, and if I'm living my life according to the loving precepts, and I'm trying to treat everybody around me and everything I can with love, my life is good.
Yeah.
When I get caught up in anger and fear, that's the opposite. That's the hell part. And I think, and if I'm wrong, and you know, and if I die, and I show up at the pearly gates and St. Peter's got the book out, and he says, you know, you lived a good life, but fuck it, you know, you didn't go to church, you know. Sorry, you're going to hell. Well, I'll go to hell with my head up high, knowing that I did the best I could to help other people and to be as good a person as I could be. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to take a chance. I really like the teachings attributed to Christ. I think the words in red are good moral lessons. Whether or not you believe in the divinity of Christ, I don't think I don't think you have to believe in that Jesus was our Savior in order to take those lessons to heart, because he's talking about things about compassion and forgiveness and acceptance and love. And those things will help all of us no matter what, regardless of what you believe. So that was the basis behind this love everybody, don't be a dick thing, is you know, basically that's the whole New Testament. If you read the New Testament, all Jesus' teachings, basically he's telling you, love everybody. You know, it's like, well, what about these people over here? Love him. Well, what about you? You know, he didn't even curse the people who hung his ass up on a cross. Yeah. You know, if that ain't some love, I'd be up there saying, fuck you, you're cool, fuck you. You know, it'd be like, you know, it'd be one of those things. But you know, he didn't even do that. So whether that story is real or fictional, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I can still learn something from it. I can learn something from anything if I open my mind. So that was one of the things, love everybody, don't be a dick, was my interpretation of the New Testament. My other thing is, I kept hearing people talk about how there's a war coming between God and Satan. And I'm like, well, it's going to be a short fucking war, you know? And people say, well, I'm like, well, if God made Satan, God could just unmake his ass just as quick, you know? And if you're worried about a war between God and Satan, then you're doubting the omnipotence of God. Mm-hmm. You're saying that all-powerful God is not that fucking powerful. And either he's all-powerful and all-knowing, or he's the P.T. Barnum of celestial beings. You know, he's either complete fucking fake, or he's the dude. There ain't no in-between, you know, so which one is it? And I think that Satan, you know, or as the old text used to refer to him, the great adversary, is basically middle management. God said, well, we need a hell, you know. You're running it, you know, this is your job. And the thing is without a Satan, you wouldn't need a Christ. Yeah. Because what's Christ going to save you from? You know, and without Christ, you wouldn't need Satan. You know, they're two sides of the same coin. One wouldn't exist without the other. You know, And the thing is Satan has never made anybody do. Let's assume Satan is real, all right? Go buy that record by the Lubin Brothers. Let's assume that Satan is real, all right? Let's just assume that, all right? Satan's never made anybody do anything they didn't already want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were given free will. We were given the ability to be the masters of our own fate. We get to choose how it is we're going to live our lives. We can live our lives according to love, or we can be self-centered dicks and live in fear. And Satan's got nothing to do with that. That's our choice. Yeah, he might throw some temptation your way, you know, but it's still your fucking decision, you know. You know the consequences of your behavior if you're an adult. So using Satan as a scapegoat, it's like, I'm going to blame Satan for all my transgressions. This ain't my fault I banged that chick, you know, that was Satan, you know. No, you're the one that chose to do this shit.
Yeah.
That's not, and so I can't blame anybody. And Satan's been used as a fool to allow people to get away with the most egregious behavior. You know, they blame it. I'll just blame it on Satan. You know, it wasn't me. No, it was you. You're the one that screwed your brother's wife. You know, it's not. You can't blame that shit on Satan. You know.
I'm following you a lot. So I come from a religious background, and I had a pretty hard shift to atheism. At least, yeah, what I call it, atheism.
Church of Christ. You know, I grew up in Church of Christ. If we'd had good snakes in Wilson County, we'd been snake handlers.
Yeah.
We just didn't. We had copperheads. That's about it.
That's really funny. The previous guest I talked to came from a Southern Baptist church where they really legit. That was like something they did, and yeah, I mean, we weren't that hardcore, but
I got a song called "It Ain't Really Church If You Ain't Got a Snake."
of course you do.
Sorry.
No, it's great, but
everything's a fucking song.
You mentioned sympathy for the devil too. Like that's something you're touching on. Which, by the way, I'm not like hardcore atheistic at this point, but I am basically an atheist. But I don't know. I don't know. It don't matter.
Here's a concept I have. All right, God created all of us. All right. God created people, gave them free will. Told Adam and Eve, don't eat from this tree. It's the tree of knowledge. Right now, you're fat, dumb, and stupid. Being fat, dumb, and stupid is like a superpower, you know. You don't know shit, you can walk through life being just happy as shit, you know. But once you're not stupid anymore, you start to realize all about injustices, and you know, you start wanting shit you can't have.
Yeah.
You know? And so they ate from the tree of knowledge, and suddenly they realized, oh, this is all fucked up. They made that decision to do that. God got pissed at them. That was original sin, supposedly. And so we've been having to atone for that ever since. So I'm like going, wait a minute. God sent down his only child to die to protect us from his wrath. This doesn't make any fucking sense, you know? And like, I just logically it doesn't make any sense. I can't grasp it. And why do we have to preach? Why are we so hung up on hell?
Yeah.
Why don't we teach about the love of Christ instead? Why do we have to use the stick instead of the carrot? I remember being in church and it was always going to hell, because hell fills up the collection plate quicker than love does.
I think there is some truth to that, especially on the exploitative side of people's faith. But what do you think of this idea? Because I think there's a sort of growing movement of people who feel like the symbolism, kind of like what you were talking about, like the symbolism of the morality of all this stuff, maybe it's appealing to a younger demographic. I think in a way because they don't think it, they're not worried about logic or literal interpretation. I think there's a lot of folks out there now who are like, it's still interesting to give your life this flavor of like the symbolic mythology of this stuff. Looking
at the Bible as being the literal word of God.
Yeah.
The infallible word of God. I'm like, how many translations of the Bible are there? You know, the printing press didn't come around until, what, the 1500s? The Gutenberg press? You know, so that's 1,500 years of scribes, drunken monks in a cave somewhere, thinking about some big-titty chick bringing them a sandwich and some wine, who are having to hand copy the Bible. I want you to hand copy something 10 times and see and look back at each one and see if you made any mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, which version of the Bible is the correct one? You know, there's a bunch of books left out. You know, they decided, the Council of Nicaea and so many other stuff, where they decided that we're going to make this canon, but this doesn't count.
Yeah.
You know, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and there's so many different contradictions in the Bible. There's a talking donkey in there. You know, there's Ezekiel gets sucked up into a UFO, the wheel inside the wheel. You know, we preach against homosexuality, but we got no problem eating shrimp. You know, and it's in the same book of the Bible. You know.
Yeah.
But so we enforce the rules that we agree with. We ignore the ones that are inconvenient for us, and to me it's all bullshit. You know, I think most the Iliad, the Odyssey, all that stuff was, you know, the Bible's an oral tradition, and it was like so much stuff was, because there were very few people who could read and write, and back in the day. And I don't think you can look at it as being a literal book. If you read the book, you know, each book of the Bible is its own set piece, and not trying to connect the dots. It's more interesting that way. There are moral lessons involved. I really like James, Jesus' brother, who said that faith without deeds is bullshit. You know, it's not about saying, you know, getting ducked and saying, hey, I got to get out of hell free card. So you got to put some effort in. You got to put some work in. I like that. There's a chapter in I can't remember. I think it's John. It might be James. I'm not a Bible scholar. It says, we love him because he first loved us. If man says he loves God, but he hates his brother, he's a liar. Because how can he love God who he's never seen and hate his brother who he has seen? You know?
Yeah.
And so all these little things, there's little nuggets of truth throughout the thing, but I don't think it's ever meant to be literal. I think there's lessons in there. And I think that if you open your mind and just try to read it and look for the lessons, you know, there's good stuff in there. But I was brought up that that the Church of Christ that I went to, their interpretation of the King James Version of the Holy Bible is the only correct one.
Yeah.
That's the only correct Bible. This is the only correct interpretation. Any other interpretation, we don't care to hear, because those people are going to hell anyway, you know. And everybody was going to hell except them, and except a select few people, because we were all sinners, and anybody that sinned was going to hell. And I'm thinking, well, what's the fucking point here, you know? I'm a kid, you know, and I'm told it's not just about sinning, but if you think about sinning, that's just as bad as sinning. And I'm like, I'm a young teen, and all I can think about is girls. All I can think about pussy and guitars. Except I didn't think about guitars then. It was probably motorcycles or something.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking about this, and so just because I think about a girl, I'm going to hell.
Right.
Well, that ain't fair. And if anything a girl did was going to send them to hell, you know, being cute was a sin. I'm like, come on, you know. And so I rebelled against all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I like the teachings of the Christ. So getting back to the book, there's an essay in there on love buddy, don't be a dick. There's an essay in there on drinking with the devil that I've talked on. Those are things that were important for me to put in the book. There's a lot of stuff in there I put about my family in a song called The Family Plan, where I was talking about my grandfather and uncles, aunts, and I come from a long line of fuck-ups. There's a song I wrote called One is Too Many, 1,000 Never Enough, about substances.
Yeah. Substances. That's the word I was looking
Yeah,
for.
you know, and addiction. And I wrote something about that. That's in there. When I was 22, 23, I knocked some chick up. And I got scared and ran away. Just abandoned her, you know. And it's some guilt I've lived with for 40-something years. And it's something I need to make amends for, and I don't know how to do it. And so I wrote a song, you know. I went and did a 23andMe, the DNA thing. And then I wrote a song, and my wife's like, that's kind of personal, isn't it? You know, you really want to put that out there? And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I do. And so I put that out there. There's a song called Help Me Mama, I Can't Breathe about the George Floyd killing. Because that just ripped my heart out when that happened. You know, so there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of serious stuff in there. And then there's there's a song called Hungry Anymore, talking about skinny dipping in the ocean. It's like, the song is, I'm skinny dipping in the ocean with my woman, and I turn and she's gone. And, you know, and I hope the shark that ate her ain't hungry anymore. You know, but the essay on that talks a whole lot about how that song came to be. And, you know, there's a piece here, the piece here, the piece here. And I put all the pieces in the story. You know, it's separate stories, but it goes to show also how you can take a piece of this, a piece of that, a piece of this, and put it together and come up with something, a song. And even though those pieces don't have to be related to each other, you know, you can still make the connection in your head. You're like, that would be good. You know, I should do, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. And people are always throwing song titles at me, and, you know, you should write about this. And I'm like, no, I shouldn't. You shouldn't. You know, because I can't do that, you know.
It's a personal thing.
I used to be friends with Billy Joe Shaver. And for a year or two, we would talk on the phone and shit. And how that happened was I was in St. Louis. He was playing a show, and I got asked to be his driver. So I got to be friendly with Billy that way. And he called me about something about an escapade he had with a woman, and he said, I left her, you know. He said, I left her cum drunk and crying in the living room floor. And I'm like, damn, Billy, that's a song right there. He said, if it is, you're going to have to write it. I ain't writing it. He did put something along those lines in the song. He didn't call it come drunk and crying, but, you know, I heard the song and I'm like, it's Slim Chance and Can't Hardly Play Boys. There's a line in there. I'm like, holy shit. Or Wacko from Waco, I think it's, I don't remember, but one of these songs he did something about. Mm-hmm. But it made me think that even if you have a good idea for a song, it doesn't necessarily mean that I can write a song to it. I can't. It's just, things come to me.
They're different perspectives too.
Yeah, it's like, this is what I was talking about the ADHD. You ask a question, and I will ramble around in circles, you know, and I'll get lost. Sometimes I come back to the question, and sometimes I can't.
That's all right, man.
But that's what the book is. The book is, I wrote the book. It was about 180 pages, something like that. I don't remember. I sent it off to the printer, got a proof copy back. I'm like, okay. I looked at it. I'm like, I can flesh this out a whole lot more. Then I got in a hurry because I was getting ready to do that little mini tour thing where I went to, the tour fell apart, but I played in Atlanta, and then I played in Knoxville. Then I came home. Because I like driving 800 miles to not make any money. That's the goal. That's my whole goal as a musician.
I've been there.
Yeah. How long before the transmission falls out of my car? But and so I sent it off to the printer without the proof copy. When I got the book back, I looked at it and I was horrified because I'd formatted it screwed up. I didn't, you know, I screwed up the margins because you're supposed to put an extra, what they call the gutter, on the left side of the odd number pages, and it should be on the right side of the even number pages. Well, I just put it on the left side all the way through. So the even number pages have no margin on the right side and a big ass wide margin on the left. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, and I know it's a bunch of misspellings and things like that. And I'm like, I just spent $300 for killing, for shit. But I sat down and I went through it all and cleaned everything up. And the book went from about 250 pages to now it's almost 400 pages. Once I cleaned up the formatting and took care of the stuff, because you're supposed to start a new chapter on an odd page. And I didn't do that. I just one after the other. And so I got all these books at the house now, that's another part of my ADHD. I get right. I get in a hurry sometimes and don't, and I don't think things out, and or I think I get locked into things, and so I'm not happy with any CDs I've ever made. I mean, the first one I'm pretty cool with. I went and played at Pass the Hat, WHEP in Hillsborough, North Carolina. Have you ever played over there?
I don't think so.
Oh, you need to.
What's it called again?
It's called Pass the Hat. It's a live radio show,
Okay.
and they archive everything. But you go in there and there's a couple people in there and they ask you questions and you play your songs. It's real impromptu.
I'll look into that.
Yeah, and send me a text. I'll introduce you to people.
Okay.
You'd be good at that. You'd enjoy doing that, and they'd love you. And I just got lost out.
You didn't like your first
I
CD
did that
or
show,
other
and I
CDs?
thought it felt good. And I said, "Hey, can I have a copy of this? Did you record it?" They said, "Yeah, it's on the server." And so they gave me a thumb drive of it, and I listened to it, and I thought, "Hell, this is good." And I cut out all the stuff like Bill's playing this week at the butt scratch whatever. I cut all that stuff out. I just left the shit in there about me and my songs.
Yeah.
And so it's interview section, song, interview section, song. And I put it on CD and put it out. And so that's my first CD. No, that was my second CD. My first CD, Lee Terry. Do you know?
I
you
do.
know Lee? I love Lee.
First time I
Lee's
ever played the garage was opening for him.
Lee and Susan Terry. I love Lee Terry, and I treated him like shit so bad. Lee has always been super encouraging and super supportive, and I was writing songs, and when I started writing songs, I said, I got these songs I want you to hear, because to me he was the big guy in town, he was, and so I went over there and he says, "You need to record these." I'm like, "Yeah, but that costs money." I grew up in Nashville or outside of Nashville, and the recording, I was kind of familiar with how recording worked there, but I didn't know a whole lot. And he said, "No, you need to record these now." He said, I got a little studio downstairs. He said, "I used to do demos." He said, "We could sit down there and we could do our thing and do this." And so I did it. And that was the first, I put that out under my own name, Jeff Wall. And it's called Love Everybody. And what it is, I just went in and did vocals and my acoustic guitar, and Lee did everything else. And I love that record. Mm-hmm. Now, I hated it when it first came out. I was heartbroken because my vocals are very muddy. And the reason why my vocals were so muddy is I didn't know anything about doing a scratch track. Doing the vocal guitar scratch track and then coming back in and doing the vocals on top of that.
Yeah. And
come back in doing the guitar on top of that. I didn't know anything about that. And so what happens is my vocals and guitar, if you turn my vocals up loud, my guitar will overwhelm everything because of the way it was mixed. And I didn't know anything about mastering. I didn't know that's extra money that I don't have.
Yeah.
And so he pushed a button on the little Roland whatever thing that was he used, and that's how we mastered it. I found some free mastering software, and I remastered it recently, where it pulled my voice up somewhat, and I loved it. And the reason I loved it, it's all Lee, all the stuff that Lee put on there. It's my songs and Lee's playing in his arrangements. That was my first record that I did with Lee, and I was kind of a shit ass when I hated it so bad, and it broke my heart. And it was my fault for not getting it mastered. He told me to get it mastered, and I didn't do it because, I don't know, whatever. The second one was that WHEP record. And then I went into Gary Hawkins. Do you know him?
Not sure I do.
I hope I said his name right. He's got a little studio in Winston somewhere in his basement. He normally does more metal stuff and things like that. And I went there and did a demo with him because I wanted to record some songs so I could remember how to do them. And he came back to me, and they sounded all right. I'm like, well, hell, I'll put this out as a record too. Why not? Mm-hmm. This last one, I raised some money on crowd, whatever that is. I can't remember.
GoFundMe or Kickstarter.
Kickstarter, And I went and I did some stuff with Black Rabbit Audio, and I can't remember his name right now. My head's, I'm hungry and I'm thirsty and I can't think of shit.
Yeah.
Tom Troyer. And I did, the problem I had with doing this record with Tom is we don't speak the same language.
Mm.
When he thinks drums, he's thinking Neil Peart. When I think drums, I'm thinking people like Kenny Malone. I'm thinking of these Nashville guys that I grew up listening to. I'm thinking Roger Hawkins, Muscle Shoals. I'm thinking Levon Helm, who's got just a great, or Al Jackson with Booker T and the MGs, people that have great shuffles, you know, and things like that. You know, a minimalist guy, all he needs is a kick and a snare and a hi-hat. Doesn't need anything else. That's enough. You know, minimalist. And when I think bass players, I'm thinking Junior Husky, Roy Husky Jr., Mike Bubb, some of those people, bluegrass acoustic bass players, people that they can lock in on a 1/5, and that's all they need to do. They're not scared to play 1/5, and with a drummer and a backbeat, you know, and just keep it simple, minimalistic.
Me too.
And we used a couple of guys who were great. Evan Campbell played bass, and Aaron, I can't remember Aaron's last name, he played drums. They did a great job, but I couldn't tell him what I wanted. I didn't know the language to tell him.
Yeah.
And I'm growing up the way I grew up, I'm very non-confrontational. Confrontation, the only way I know how to deal with angry people is for me to get angrier. I have to get angrier and louder, and it's not good for you. It's not good for me. So I tend to avoid those type of circumstances. I tend to avoid conflict, but don't push me into a corner. That's never good. Because I'll just become a large enraged bear, and I'm going to hurt somebody. But I'm really good about not allowing myself to get into a corner. But there's some communication problems in. They're not acoustic or bluegrass background. That's the problem. But they did a good job. A lot of people told me they love this record. I hate it. It's a little bit weird, the name of the record. Now, I was listening to it the other day because I was trying to work out on one of the songs, and when I was, and I like it. I'm starting to like it a little bit better now.
Hell yeah.
It's got nothing to do with them, with Tom or any of the other players, any problems with that record of mine, because I signed off on them. I signed off on everything. I said, yeah, this is good. You know, so I can't blame anybody but me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the producer's record. His name is not on the sumbitch. My name is on the sumbitch. So I have the end responsibility for it. So when I complain about this record, I don't want anybody to think I'm complaining about the job Tom did. Tom did what I asked him to do.
Yeah.
The problem is I didn't know what to ask him to do.
I get you.
You know, and so I cannot. I don't want to insinuate. I don't want to cast any negativity toward his way at all. Peter Cooper was a friend. I don't know if you knew Peter or not. Peter was a songwriter, lived in Nashville. He used to write for the Nashville Tennessean, and then he wrote for. Then he went to work for the Country Music Hall of Fame. And Peter's pretty much a no bullshit guy. He loved everybody. He knew everybody, but he'd tell you the truth. If it hurt your feelings, oh well, it's your fucking problem, not his.
Yeah.
He wasn't rude about it, but Peter told me that I need to take it to Tom Utes. He said, next time you come he said, just come to Nashville and make the record. Make it with Tom Utes. He's my guy. And another buddy of mine told me the same thing. Jubal Young, Steve Young's son, told me the same thing. He'd done a record with Tom Utes. And so I was told to do that. And so I talked to Tom, and Tom said, yeah. He said, we'll work something out. Come, we'll do this. We'll do a record. The guys in the drive-by truckers, I've known those guys since they were playing the garage, you know, when the band would outnumber the audience.
Yeah.
And Jay Gonzalez, who's in the band, and Brad Morgan, a drummer, they want to do something with me. Patterson Hood, who's told me he'd help me. So I got these people that are wanting to help me do stuff. I just got to figure out what the hell I want to do, you know. We want to play on your shit, but I got to come up with something to play on. And so I have to ask myself, do I want to go back and re-record some of these things I'm happy with, or do I need to come up with new material? You know, because not that many people have heard my shit. You know, and if I had some push behind it, would you know if I had some push behind it, more people would hear it. But the whole goal is, I'm 61 years old. I'm not going to be a rock star. You know? But I'd like to play some festivals. I'd like to play some more gigs. I'd like to be able to tour and play house concerts and have people put me up on their couch.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to play to new faces. And I think that if I was to work with some of these people, it would make me appear to be more legitimate, and it would give me a higher quality product.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I'm very honored that these people have faith in me and like my stuff enough to do that. Peter passed away this past year, and I'm kind of upset. You know, that hit me pretty hard because he's a supporter and a friend. I mean, we weren't call each other every day friends, but we knew each other.
Yeah.
And we always took to see each other. Wes Freed died last year too. That threw me for a loop. It makes me realize I'm getting older. I could be next. And if I'm going to do something, I better get my ass in gear.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's an important, well, that's a great note to start to wrap on. So, you're hungry, I'm hungry. I'll ask one more question and then we'll start to.
Oh, that could take 3 hours, dude.
Well, we'll risk it. We'll see what happens.
No, let me. Well, I want to plug my website and shit before I go.
Oh, okay, for sure. Well, so I'll ask you this real quick. That kind of ties into what you just said, which is an important piece of philosophy, you know, to remember one's mortality. And I guess, like, it's cool that you're a late bloomer musician, you know? It's cool that you kind of really leaned into it later, I guess.
I have people, there's a lot of people around here who are huge supporters. Mm-hmm. Jim Moody. I don't know if you know Jim or not. Jim's such a hell of a musician. He's such a sweet guy. Doug Davis, Lee Terry. I mean, there's a lot of really good performers and songwriters in town that are 110% my corner, and I'm just really grateful for that. I started writing songs later in life, but I've been doing covers for years.
Yeah.
You know? But when I started writing songs, I was told I had a unique voice, and so I've just leaned into it. And I get stuff from people all the time telling me how incredible and amazing and inspiring it is that somebody old like me is put this much effort into it. And I'm like, I don't feel old, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I was going to sort of ask you is, like, because something I'm running into some of the time, and maybe this sounds stupid because I'm in my early 30s and whatever, but there's still this thing about looking at popular music sometimes and how much of it's almost like a children's game. It's like for 21-year-olds. And then I get older and I think, well, I don't know what that means anymore. And I guess I was going to ask you something like, at this point in your relationship with music, what you tell yourself is important about it all, and what makes you continue to do it and all that?
First, when I picked up a guitar in '82, I haven't put one down since, because it allows me to express my feelings and emotions. It allows me to, it's a meditational device. I'm an attention whore. It's a way I connect with people. I would have to perform. I have to perform. It's not, I'm not doing this to try to get, yeah, I'm trying to make money at it, you know, and I derive a good bit of my income from this, but it's not just a business, it's also an emotional thing. I have to do it. You know, I have to play music. I could no more not play music than Picasso could not draw, you know. I'm not saying that that I have that kind of talent. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying I'm driven to do this, you know, and I asked myself, why didn't you start writing songs when you were in your 20s? You know, maybe you could have been somewhere. But, you know, Tom T. Hall put out a book called The Songwriter's Handbook. Have you ever read that?
I never read it.
Oh, you need to get that book. And it's only got like 8 or 9 things it tells you to do. One thing says you need to know your audience. and you need to identify your audience. And I looked out in the audience, and my audience is my age. I'm not playing to 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
20-year-olds that want to boot scoot boogie, you know, they want to hear songs about drinking in a pickup truck by the river, you know. My crowd does not give a shit about drinking in a sneaking beer in a red Solo cup by the river, you know.
Yeah.
If they want a beer, they'll just go buy a fucking beer, you know. It's like going, it's that. I sing shit about erectile dysfunction blues. You know, your old lady being more interested in her vibrator than you. You know, this song is a battery-operated boyfriend. I sing. I got a suicide song I sing. You know, where I think a lot of times suicide is not a planned event. It's an opportunity that presents itself, and it's an impulsive act. And I'm a very impulsive person. I write shit. I write songs that are important to me. And I have to trust that people my age and my perspective will find them interesting. And I think you have to write to your audience. And so you have to ask yourself, who am I writing to? Who am I trying to play music to? Who am I trying to play music for? You know, am I wanting to play for the frat boys who you know, who are into, I can't even tell you who the hit song makers are today. I really can't. I don't know. You know, I just don't know. I try to listen to radio and I hate it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm more into the Americana, alt country stuff, or I'm more into rock before 1972. You know, it's like things like that. I saw a Towns album over there. I'm like, I love Towns. I love Guy Clark. I love Steve Young. I love Steve Young. Steve Young is the guy that wrote Seven Bridges Road and what else did he write? Lonesome Ornery and Mean. I mean, and I ended up being friends with him. I've been lucky. I've met people. I've become friends with people. Sometimes for a short period, sometimes lifelong. And it's not due to any talent on my part. You know, it's just you run into people and you meet people and you just try to be, if you try to be genuine and helpful to people, it comes back.
Yeah.
So I'm 61 and I'm doing this because it's fun. I'm 61 and I'm doing this because it helps me pay my credit card bills. I'm 61 and I'm doing this because I'm able to write about shit that I can't talk about. Got a song called You're Making My Head Hurt. And me and my wife were fighting about something. I don't know what it was, but she'll tell you right now it was something stupid I said or did and I was wrong. And I'm like, and it's like, I love you to death, but sometimes I want to love you to death. You know, it's like, marriage. One of these days I'm going to write this song. I've got 2 or 3 songs in my head. One of them is I want to write a song about the worst part about getting old is watching your friends die. Another one is marriage teaches a man that you can love somebody and hate them at the same time. You know, and it's true. I mean, I love my wife to death. Sometimes I can't stand that bitch, but I love her to death. I really do. I cherish my wife.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can't stand her. And she feels the same way about me. I mean, it's not like she got a prize off the top shelf. You know, she got the consolation basket underneath it, you know. She's like, choose something here from the consolation. She said, well, I guess I'll take him, you know. So, I don't remember the fucking question now.
Yeah, you like, you know, what you were just hinting on, like why?
Why? Because,
yeah.
I don't know, why do you eat food?
You just do it.
You know, because I have to. I mean, it's like, people say, why do you play music? I'm like, why do you eat food?
Yeah.
You know, why do you play with your dick? It's something I have to do. I just don't.
I think it also hints on something you were saying earlier. You know, sometimes I wonder if it's foolish to wonder why you do something so obvious when it's like, you don't have to ask why about everything. You don't have to explain why about everything. You know, you don't have to know why about everything.
I'm curious about why. You know, I'm always curious about why. Why am I this way? Why do I think like this? Why do I act like this? Why did I do that? Why are you treating me like this? You know, I'm always curious about cause and effect. But sometimes there is no answer for why.
Yeah.
sometimes it just is. You just have to do that. And music used to be really important to me, listening to music when I was young. And I don't listen to that much music anymore.
Yeah.
I'm much more into my own music than I am somebody else's. And it's pretty sad. When I go see friends play, it kills me because I want to be on stage playing with them.
I'm with you on that, and I've explained that to people on this show, and they can't relate to it usually.
No, I had a buddy. Do you know who Casey Dreesen is? Casey Dreesen is a fiddle player. He's a bluegrass fiddle player. And he's a friend. His wife, Molly, used to work at Sugar Hill Records, and that's how I got to know all that crowd. Casey's dad is a guy named Tom Dreesen, and Tom told me something profound one day. I used to go to Merle Fest all the time. We'd all camp together on Friday night. There'd be a big party, the whole Sugar Hill Records gang. And I got to play with Bela Fleck. I got to play with all these people that they all knew from the record label who come up, and I get to play. And it's not because I'm good. It's because I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. It's because people were kind to me, and I tried to be kind to others, and so they enjoyed my company. But Tom Dreesen said to me once, he said, music is not an observational sport. Music is a participatory sport.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love more than anything else is sitting around playing with other people. Because I don't get to do that a whole lot. Hopefully you'll have, I don't know, you got to eat and I got to eat, but I would love to sit and play with you sometime. I just want to play. And I love playing with other people because it's a conversation.
Yeah.
And try to explain that to other people. I said, it's a conversation. I'm competing against him, but I'm not competing against him. I'm trying to figure out what I can do to make him sound better. And he's trying to figure out what he could do to make me sound better. And we're both trying to play to the song. It's not, I don't know how to describe it to anybody. It's like sex is what it is. Except it lasts longer than 30 seconds, and nobody has to cry afterwards. And I don't have to cry afterwards.
Not always, anyway.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I've been married a long time. I forget how that shit works. I haven't been laid in years. But yeah, that's how I connect with people, is playing music. I have a strong connection playing with you than I do talking with you, because I have trouble with that.
I get it.
And I'm scared to death of this because, I've been very, very candid because this is how I am. And I'm like, oh, this is going to let everybody know what a fucking idiot I am, but there's always that fear.
Yeah.
People are going to find out what a fucking fake I am. They're going to find out that I'm an idiot, that I don't, what the hell am I doing? And, I chose this name, Big Dumb Hick. My website is Big Dumb Hick. It's all one word. Don't misspell it. You'll end up somewhere on the internet you may not want to go. I'm not trying to freak shame anybody, I'm told that man is gifted in a way in which I'm not. I don't know what that means. But what happened was I got on the music industry bulletin board years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing a shirt right now. And you had to come up with a screen name. Most of these guys were rock guys, and I was writing about country music and Americana and bluegrass, which they all consider hick music. I don't know if you've noticed it, but I'm rather large. I don't know if you've noticed this or not. I seem to think that I'm the same size as everybody else is, and people tell me that I'm not. I'm 6'7" and I weigh 360, and I kind of fill up a doorway. And when you see somebody this big that talks the way I talk, who has the same number of teeth that I have or don't have, wearing bib overalls, the first thing you think, this is one big dumb fucking hick. It's just what you think. I mean, it's just, especially if you're not from around here, people that are not from North Carolina did not realize that we wear bibs every fucking where. I mean, we'll wear bibs to church. We don't care, put on a tie and a dress shirt and a pair of bibs. Mike Compton does it all the time. And to me, they're much more comfortable than jeans are.
Yeah.
Especially when you're fat and have to pull a belt. So I'm always wearing bibs when I can, and people look at me, and so the Big Dumb Hick thing, I use that as a screen name. When I started writing songs, I realized I need a website. I need something so I can tell somebody, hey, go check me out here. Mm-hmm. And if you look up Jeff Wall, there's a famous Canadian photographer.
Ah, I see.
I'm thinking, shit, you know. So you look up Jeff Wall music. There, it used to be if you looked up Jeff Wall music, you'd run into another Canadian, a British Columbia guy named Jeff Wall, who put out one CD that I know of called Blue Guitar, because I used to get email for him all the time. Then some people would accuse me with Jeff Walls, who lived in Athens, who was the guitar player for Guadalcanal Diary and the Woggles. He's passed. Nice guy. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do I stand out from the crowd? What do I do different? What can I do that I need a name that people will remember? It needs to be something catchy and that people remember, you know, like the Gourds, you know, people remember that name. Or you think of whatever, you know, I can't even think of any band, Foghat, whatever, you know, it needs to be something catchy. It should probably be short, one word. I'm like, well, I'll make Big Dumb Hick one word. That's one word. And I looked, and there was no other Big Dumb Hick I could find on the internet.
Yep.
And it also played into my sense of humor.
Yeah.
You know, it's also something to really downplay yourself and to, you know, I have a very self-depreciating sense of humor. I'll talk shit about me and make fun of me, but I don't want to make fun of you. I don't want to be mean to you. I don't got no problem being mean to me. You know, me and my wife talk shit about each other, but we do it in a loving way. And it's like, you know, and one of us will say, we'll say something really nasty and mean, and we'll say, was that good? You know, just so the other one knows that you weren't trying to be serious. You know, she said, that one stung a little bit. I said, oh, shit, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for that to happen. And she said, you know, and she'll say something smart ass back. So that played into my sense of humor. The problem with that is because people typecast me and think I'm a Hank Jr. Cover guy. You know, this is a Hank Williams Jr. tribute band. I'm like, no, fuck him. I'm not. You know, he's a very talented guy. I can't stand his politics or his philosophy or, you know, he's a little bit too redneck for me. You know, at least that kind of redneck. I respect the shit out of the guy, but no, I'm me is who I am. And I've thought about, should I drop the Big Dumb Hick name? And then I asked, as a bunch of people said, you know, we checked you out just because of that name, you know? And so to some people it's a draw. To some people it's a turnoff.
But, you know, everything is.
Yeah, and so I'm like, well, if I want to be taken more seriously as a musician, that's why I started writing songs too, because I want to be taken more seriously as a musician. And I felt like in order to do that, I had to write my own songs, because you can't, if you're doing cover songs, nobody's going to take you seriously, which is bullshit. You know, it's there's a lot of great players in town that we both know that mostly do cover songs, and they do. Doug Davis and the Plaids, they make more money doing cover songs of shitty '80s songs than they do anything else that they do, and they're all great musicians with their hands in 7 or 8 different projects, you know.
Yeah.
So these guys, but I wanted to be taken seriously, and I thought in order to do that, I need to learn how to write my own songs. So what I do, I write songs about erectile dysfunction and vibrators, and you know, and your woman cheating on you or getting eaten by a shark. You know, so it's like problem with being serious is good catch. It's almost empty though. The problem with me wanting to be taken seriously is I have a hard time being serious.
Yeah.
So what have we left off? What have we missed?
I think that's pretty much it. So all the links for your Bandcamp and your book and all that is on Big.
Yeah, you can find it. I'm the only Big Dumb Hick.
BigDumbHick.com?
Yes, BigDumbHick.com. Bandcamp is BigDumbHick.bandcamp.com. Let's see. YouTube is youtube.com/BigDumbHick. I'm on Facebook as Big Dumb Hick. I'm not hard to find.
Cool.
And I need to start booking some gigs again because I've been kind of slack. Are you playing out much? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm starting to book some shows. Like they're starting to come in. I've got at least a show every month, like from now to October, and that's good for me, I guess. Like I wasn't playing a lot.
See, I want to play 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, like I'd rather be playing every weekend.
I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do. Should I be playing? Should I be doing things like that, like you're doing? If I'm playing local, play less frequently, so that so it makes people want to see me more instead of thinking, oh, well, shit, we can see him any Tuesday. You know?
Yeah, I'm only doing it because, I mean, I really want to play out of town more. So, like, the more shows I start to get out of town, the more I'll play. But I don't really want to play Winston and Greensboro a ton. So I'm being very.
See, I don't care. I'll play anywhere. I'm a whore.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2020, I was searching for gigs. I couldn't find anything. And News Resort popped up on my Google search. I don't know why. You know, it's not like I was looking at titties or anything. But I thought, well, hell, these people are probably pretty accepting. Let's see what they got to, you know. And I sent queries out, and there was one in South Carolina that says, yeah, come on, you know. And so I ended up playing there, you know. I played it a couple times.
Where did you say?
A nudist resort.
So a buddy of ours, who we were talking about how interesting you are or something. He said, I don't know if I should say it or not.
Say
it. He said, Jeff Wall, he plays nudist resorts, and they don't require that he plays in the nude, but he does so voluntarily.
Oh, see, I didn't. The first time I played this place, I didn't know that I didn't have to play in the nude. The story's in the book. Here's what happened. I was trying to figure out. I was looking up musicians playing by the pool.
Yeah.
And I kept putting it in different ways to do it. And that's when the news resort popped up because somebody was playing. There was some band playing by a pool somewhere in Florida. And I'm thinking, well, shit, I could do this. So I sent queries off to three of them within a couple hundred miles of here. And Carolina Foothills Resort immediately responded back and said, oh, hell yeah, we'd love to have you. And I'm like, oh, shit. You know, it's like you hitting on a hot chick and she says yes. And you're like, now what do I do?
Yeah.
You know, it's like that. I married her. And so I come to my wife. I said, hey, I just booked this gig in South Carolina. And she's always concerned about me booking gigs far away and driving home because she's worried I'm going to get killed on the highway. I'm going to fall asleep and drive to a bridge or something. And I'm like going, she said, that's kind of far to go for a gig, isn't it? You know? And I'm like, well, they're paying me my full asking price. And they said they're putting me up in the cabin. She said, I'm in. And I'm like, wait, there's something you need to know. She said, no, there's not. I'm in. I told you I'm in. You said cabin. You had me at cabin. And I'm like going, it's at a nudist resort. And she says, I don't care. You had me at cabin. And she said, I ain't getting naked. She said, and I will cut the first person that tries to get me naked. You know, my wife's a little honey badger. I used to call her my red-headed assault weapon until I had the cops call on me about that recently. That caused a big, my apologies to a certain cell phone repair shop, which I did not want to, they did not even want to be associated with me, but they're really kind. I talked to them the other day. My mouth gets me in trouble a lot. But, so I tell her about this, and we drive down there, and we're talking about it. We pull into the place, and it's a gated community. They do a background check on everybody. You know, you're not just coming in there and getting your free, and they tell you, if you start showing your ass, you're gone, period. There is no gray area. If you start acting inappropriate toward anybody, you put your hands on anybody, you start walking around a little stiffy, you're gone. You know, we ain't putting up none of that shit. So we pull in, and so she liked that because it meant it was an enclosed, gated community. We pull in, we're seeing, you know, we see a couple of kids, see somebody zoom past on a golf cart, you know, just normal shit. Then we see some naked guy washing his car, and my wife starts giggling like a little kid. She says, oh shit, he was naked. So we go check in, and they show us this little cabin, and it's not really cabin in the traditional sense. It's just a little small building with a bed in it, and this one happened to have a bathroom, but most of them don't. You know, there's three community bathrooms there. So most of these sheds don't have bathrooms. You know, and it's just like a shed with a bed in it. You know, it's not the Taj Mahal. You know, it's nothing like that. And so they gave us a key, and we went down there, and then I went up and played the gig, and. I've been naked in front of people before. You know, I was in the Navy 20 years. I shared a bedroom with 44 guys. You know, It's not that big a deal. In high school, we'd have to do gym class, and it was big open base showers. Boot camp was the same way. I've been to a bunch of nude beaches and topless beaches all over Europe when I was in the Navy. but there was no social interaction with anything. You know, nobody ever actually come talk to me. And you know how it is. If we were both standing here naked, we would each pretend like the other one didn't exist.
Right.
You know, because that's man code. You know, you ignore the naked man. Another naked man is invisible unless you like naked men, and that's a completely different perspective. But if you're a straight man and you see another straight man who's naked, he's invisible.
Right.
That's just how it rolls. And so it didn't bother me. And I went and I was getting ready to go. I said, "You come to the show?" She said, "No. Have fun." And she laughed. And I decided, shit, in Rome, let's do as the Romans. And I dropped my pants and I just went and played. Now I play seated, and I was using a full-size dreadnought guitar. So it's not like they could see much, you know, because it's not like when I was in my 20s, you know, and I could make a small horse jealous. You know, I'm a fat guy now, you know, and most of my shit you can't see it because the belly's done, you know, and the fat's done surrounded it. You know, there's probably still a lot down there somewhere, but you're gonna have to work to find it. You know? And so I went and played the gig, and I was self-conscious for about 10 minutes, but the average age there is 50 and older. It's I joke say it's AARP, and people were dancing, and it's every kind of body type you can imagine. You know, the news resort is not filled with young hot chicks waiting for me. You know, which is. And I'm thinking this way: there's no gatekeeper, allowing only the hot people in there. So you know, I played it a couple times, and after about 10 minutes, you stop noticing people be naked. Because if everybody's naked, it takes out all of the sexual tension.
Yeah,
there is none. You know, if everybody's naked, some naked chick comes up to you, you're just like, whatever. And I found that I was looking people more in the eyes when I was having conversations. And I was having deeper conversations with people because you can't tell who's rich and who's poor, who's Republican, who's Democrat. If everybody's naked, the playing field is level.
Yeah.
Completely level. We went there every month for about a year, and then we quit going. I don't remember why we stopped going, but she liked it because it was a protected environment, a gated community. I do know why. You know, the main activity there is laying in the sun and drinking. These people drink a lot, and neither one of us drink very much. She doesn't drink. My wife has a major drinking problem. She'll buy a bottle of wine maybe once a year, and she'll pour half a glass, and she'll drink half of that. And then she'll put the wine in the refrigerator, and it'll sit there and turn into vinegar before she touches it again. And I'm like, how can you live like this? You know, how can you? I would take the top off the wine bottle and throw it away because I wouldn't need it. You know, same thing with a liquor bottle. Take the top off, throw it away. You're not going to need it anymore. Yeah. You know, it's like, and so neither one of us are drinkers. And she's a redhead. She's a very modest redhead, so she ain't laying out in the sun. You know, because she would burst into flames.
Right.
And so. Those people were friendly to us, but it's hard to feel like you fit in if you're not participating in the primary activities most other people are participating in. I was told there's some freakiness that goes on at night, people swapping partners, but I was told that's really on the down low, and you won't know about it unless you're part of that scene, and you would be invited in. They know, I guess there's ways they know whether you're into that thing and those signals they give each other and whatever. But we were never approached. It could be too because I'm not fuckable. But it's the people there treated us with kindness for the most part. There were one or two people that were kind of abrasive, but I don't think it was intentionally so.
Yeah.
The people there treated us with kindness. We've been talking about going back there again because there's a hot tub that's at 104 degrees year-round. And I'll do a lot of shit for a hot tub that's at 104 degrees.
Hell yeah.
I could just go hop in a hot tub. But I can't say enough nice things about those people. But I played it twice, and then I played another one. I can't even remember the name of it. Further south in South Carolina, something Creek, Brushy Creek or something, I don't remember. Played that once. And that was a decent gig. But I'll play anywhere as long as there's no hate involved.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to play political rally where everybody. If you have a political rally and it's about positive shit, I'll play it. But if you have a political rally and it's about how we hate those people, you know, the opponents or whoever, any kind of hate, I don't want no part of that.
Yeah.
I don't want to play any supremacist thing, whether it's us tall people are better than short people, or you know, I don't want to play any negative or hateful shit. But I'll play anywhere else people want to pay me. You know, sometimes I'll play places people don't want to pay me, but I won't do that more than once or twice.
Yeah.
And I've gotten where I raised my rates a little bit from what I used to be. I used to make $150 playing for 3 hours in 2000. And there's a lot of places want you to play 3 hours now for $150. So I'm like going, no.
Yeah.
I can't afford to do it. I can't, you know. I look around here. I see you've got some decent guitars. You can't afford to do it either. You got to pay guitars. You got to pay gas. You got to pay for microphones. You got to pay for cables. You got to pay. You know, there's.
Yeah.
Then you get paid for the time. How long does it take you to sit here and learn a song or write a song? How many years of practice does it take you to get to be to the point where you're at, where you're able to do whatever it is you do? You know, and it's. I raised my rates a little bit, and I found out that most everybody else has too.
Yeah.
So my rates are in line with everybody else's. But I'm not about giving it away. I'm not about my music and my time has value to me, and I hope it has value to you or to the other people. And I wouldn't ask you to come do shit for free at my house.
Yeah.
You know, I had a bar once that said, you know, we have an open mic on Thursdays. If you come down to open mic, if you're good enough, we might book you. And I'm like, really? I'm having a get together next Friday. Why don't you bring some beer and burgers down? And if we think it's good, we might pay you. You know, you're asking me to do the same fucking thing. You know, I had somebody recently tell me I expressed an opinion about something they didn't agree with. They said, I would really appreciate it if you would just write songs and sing and stay out of this. And I'm like, I'd really appreciate it if you just shut up and listen and stay out of this. You know, it's a tit for tat thing. You know, it's a conversation, and everything is a conversation. So, but I try to keep my politics and my religious views to be. I don't have any problem expressing them, but I try to make them non-confrontational.
Yeah.
My religious view is basically if you found a path that brings you peace, I'm totally supporting that. I don't care if you worship ducks. If it's not causing harm to anybody else, and worshiping ducks brings you peace, there's a bunch of I'll show you where there's a bunch of ducks down here. Maybe you need to go talk to, you know, whatever. And I'll do whatever I can to help you and to encourage you to continue doing whatever brings you peace. And because I don't try to dictate to anybody else what they do. Yeah, I'm in circles again.
Speaking of peace and ducks, I think it's dinner time. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming over here and doing this.
Thank you. This is nice. Thank you for letting me pet your dog.
Yeah, man, she likes you a lot. She's very ridiculous. Seriously, man, thank you for doing this, and I'll try to help drive some folks to check out your website.
That'd be nice. And next time I'm always up for doing songwriting around things. I'm also up for just getting together and picking.
Good deal.
And I haven't done much co-writing. I got one co-write that I did, and how I did it was I got a buddy he's an award-winning bluegrass songwriter. I wrote a song, and I sent it to him. I said, "What do you think?" He said, "It's good." He said, "I made some changes." He changed the arrangement, the melody, and changed a couple of words. So now he owns half of it.
Okay.
And I'm okay with it because he made it better. Usually I don't like that because if somebody changes my shit, it's like I'm very protective of my stuff. I'm like, this is my song.
Yeah.
You know, but it's a give and take. And I'd like to try doing some songwriting with people from scratch and but I've never done that. Have you done any of that?
I've done a little bit of that. It's it can be really hard, and it takes time building, I think, the rapport to be able to do it with anybody. But
I think you have to. I think the hard part is you have to let go of ego.
There's some of that, yeah, and there's matching.
Because I'm an
voices
egotistical
and all sorts of
motherfucker. I
stuff.
mean, I really am. I mean, I try not to be, or I try not to show it, but I know that
Yeah.
I know that I am. I know that I've got my ways. I'm set in my ways.
Well, I'm doing some things here, some music gatherings, and I'll be sure to send you the
Oh,
invite.
please.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that.
Definitely
And
will.
songwriting around. I need to try to set up some of those. People say, why don't you put a band together? I'm like, because if I can make $300 playing by myself, or I can make $300 playing with a band, and I got to pay you motherfuckers.
Exactly.
You know, which one am I doing? You know, there's only room for one ass on stage. And when I was doing duo and trio work before, I still had to book all the gigs. I still had to bring the PA. I still had to set up the PA. I had to do all the singing and the song selection, do the set list. And then when it's all over, everybody had their hand out wanting their third.
Yep.
And then I had to break it all down and load it home. And I'm like going, and I need the money to pay my bills. But so there's a thing. Sometimes I want to share gigs with other people, and sometimes it's financially not. I need the money.
Yep.
And so, which one did I do?
I know the feeling.
Songwriting around things are always fun though, because I want to hear other people's songs. You know, because it generates ideas in my head. Where'd you find this little girl at?
My sister found 4 of them, and I took one of them.
My wife wants another dog so bad.
Oh yeah.
We had a couple Jack Russell Terriers, and we lost our last one. I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, 3 years ago maybe, and we've been in mourning ever since. I wrote a dog song about it. I've written a couple dog songs about that. But, you know, I don't realize that I do this. Somebody brings up something, I'm like, I wrote a song about that. You know, I wrote a song about that. I wrote a song, you know. You start writing songs about events in your life,
Yeah.
not really realizing it. You never know where the inspiration's coming from.
That might be what they're for. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording.
Stop recording because I need to look at your guitars before I go out.
Well, thank you again for your time.
You know, there's a thing, I try to explain this.